The movie's opening scene is in a Nazi concentration camp in 1944. A young boy named Eric Lenscher is separated from his parents. He wants to remain with his mother and has special powers. He has a magnetic ability that draws the iron gate toward him. When he is doing this, Klaus Schmidt is watching him from the window and takes an interest in him. The scene then shifts to a young Charles Xavier in 1962 who is living a privileged life in Westchester County, New York. He is approached by a shape-shifting mutant named Raven. Raven appears here as his mother, but he recognizes her because his mother never cooks in the kitchen. Raven has turned head to toe in blue color. He tells Raven to have whatever she wants and that she no longer needs to steal food. Moreover, Eric was brought into a room with a Nazi doctor named Klaus Schmidt. Schmidt demands that Eric move a metal coin on a table using only his mind. When Eric cannot do so, Schmidt shoots and kills Eric's mother in front of him to try and trigger his mutant powers. This traumatic event causes Eric's powers to manifest, and he uses his magnetic abilities to move the things in the room. His power inspires Klaus, but he is also terrified by it. So he hands over the coin in his hand and moves away. Now there is a scene where a young Eric is in Switzerland. He is holding the same metal coin and looking at a wall of pictures. Also, he is trying to identify the man who killed his mother in the concentration camp. As Eric looks at the pictures, he gets frustrated and angry. In addition, the coin in the room targets the image of Dr. Klaus Schmidt. On the other hand, Charles has also grown up and met with a mutant girl. When Raven looks at the girl, she gets angry and shows her power because her eyes have started shining, and Charles makes her angry at her for revealing her powers. Moreover, in the next scene, Raven looks in the mirror while Charles sits on the couch. Here, Raven shows her feelings towards Charles, which he denies, and considers her a friend. The following morning, Eric goes to the bank to take illegal gold. When the owner tries to press the alarm, he doesn't allow him and inquires about Klaus. When he doesn't reveal, he opens his mouth with his powers. He tells Klaus a location that Klaus is in Argentina. Eric takes out his iron tooth and threatens him not to disclose the coming to Klaus. The following scene shifts to Moira. She investigates a colonel named Hendry. Moira observes that Colonel Hendry first meets with Emma Frost and then Sebastian Shaw at a secret military facility. Here, Shaw introduces his other mutant team members, including Emma Frost and Azazel. Emma can change into crystal form, while Azazel brings tornadoes anywhere using his special powers. However, Hendry becomes increasingly uncomfortable with the idea of using mutants as weapons against Turkey and eventually has a change of heart. He tries to stop Shaw's plan. Shaw threatened Hendry by creating a tornado that threw him away. He is understood, and his man teleports him to the war room. Here, he is pressed to implement the plan of setting the location of US missiles toward Turkey. In the next scene, Moira answers the phone and informs her supervisor about Hendry. But her supervisor can't believe her because Hendry is discussing a serious issue in front of him. Also, Moira has decided to take the help of a genetic mutant. In addition, Eric is in Argentina's bar trying to track down information about Sebastian Shaw's whereabouts. While at the bar, he encounters two former Nazis responsible for torturing him and his mother. As the conversation between the three men becomes increasingly heated, Eric becomes visibly agitated. Eric penetrates the knife in the hand of a person sitting beside him. Also, he uses his mutant powers to manipulate the gun in the room that the bartender points at him. Using his power, he kills the tailor and the bartender with a knife. In the bar, Charles notices a beautiful woman in the audience, unaffected by his telepathic powers. After the talk, the woman, who is revealed to be a CIA agent named Moira MacTaggart, approaches Charles and tells him about a suspected mutant threat from a man named Sebastian Shaw. To confirm whether Moira is telling the truth, Charles reads her mind as he is also a mutant with a reading mind ability. Charles agrees to help Moira investigate Shaw and his organization. The next scene shifts to a yacht where Shaw, his team, and Colonel Hendry are present. Here, Hendry asks Shaw to give him a lot of money in return. Otherwise, Hendry is carrying a grenade that is almost going to burst. Shaw takes over with a grenade and blows it up using his abilities. In addition, Shaw also absorbs all the grenade energy and heat. Shaw shifts this energy towards Colonel. Because of that energy, the Colonel died. In the next scene, Moira gets assisted by Charles Xavier. Charles, in the meeting, discussed how powerful Shaw and his team as mutants will be. He makes them believe by reading the mind of these. Raven takes the form of any person who makes them believe when they consider him a spy. So they need to build a group first. He asked for the government's approval, and they could only proceed with it. Due to this reason, the CIA sponsored a school for mutants where Charles Xavier could teach the mutants. The plot twist begins when Eric Lensher confronts Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost on that ship. Eric is determined to stop Shaw and kills him, but Emma makes him remember painful memories that torture him. But he throws a knife at him, but again Emma interrupts and catches his knife. Also, she throws him into the water. However, now there is a pivotal fight scene where Charles and his team track Shaw's location. Charles also tries to connect with Shaw, but Emma learns he uses his telepathy abilities to track them. Meanwhile, she started blocking those location tracking by using her powerful abilities. The fight begins with Eric using his magnetic powers to smash the boat. The ship is transformed into a submarine, and Eric is drawn by it. Here Eric started drowning in the sea, where Charles rescued him. Charles and Eric meet Dr. Hank McCoy at the lab, a mutant who can enhance physical abilities and a brilliant scientist working on the project. On the other hand, Russia has given Shaw a helmet through which none can get inside his brain. Shaw plans to start World War IV between Russia and the US to eradicate humanity and allow mutants to rule the world. Apart from this, Raven is interested in him and wants to lead a simple life, which compels Dr. Hank to take the blood to create the serum. Eric passing by this place encourages Raven to embrace her mutant powers and not be ashamed of who she is. The next scene shifts to the CIA Research Center, where Charles tries to convince Eric to join his team. Initially, he refuses, but then he decides to join their team. Moreover, Charles Xavier, Eric Lensher, and Raven Darkholme visit a laboratory where Cerebro is being developed. Cerebro is a device that enhances Charles' telepathic abilities, allowing him to locate mutants anywhere in the world. McCoy demonstrates the prototype Cerebro helmet to Charles, who tries it on and can locate mutants. The next scene shifts to Eric and Charles, who start searching for young mutants worldwide. Here they found a mutant, a girl named Angel, having wings. In addition, Eric and Charles found 4 different mutants with different super abilities. Alex, Angel, Hank, and Darwin have been added to their team. The scene switches to Emma, who cannot feel Charles and knows they are hiring mutants against them. But Shaw sent her to Russia and decided to handle them. Now the scene shifts where all the young mutants sit together, discussing their powers and experiences with being different. During this scene, the mutants discuss how their powers have affected their lives. Raven talks about how she has always felt like an outsider because of her ability to shapeshift. Angel reveals that her family ostracized her because of her wings. At the same time, everyone mocked Hank for his big feet. Alex also shows his power and breaks the statue with his laser power. However, while they are at the lab, Raven discovers files revealing that the government is experimenting on mutants and planning to use them as weapons. This discovery leads to a heated debate between Charles and Eric about whether mutants should work with humans or reject them entirely. While enjoying themselves, Charles, Eric, and Moira reach there and ask them all to stop that nonsense. Moreover, the next scene starts when Moira informs her mutant team about Shaw and that he will go to Russia. When they reach there, they discover that instead of Shaw, Emma is present. They mutually try to abort it, but then Eric captures all the people with the iron. Here, Eric fights with Emma in Russia, where she uses her powers to transform her body into a diamond-like crystal. Also, it injures Emma, causing her to revert to her human form. In the background, Charles starts reading her mind about a facility owned by Shaw and the agenda he is onto. Shaw plans to create a world war between Russia and the US. Eric and Charles put Emma into the CIA jail. Moreover, when Shaw learns that Emma gets in their custody, he returns and starts locating the mutants. Suddenly, Shaw and his supporters appear and make government soldiers fall from the height, and each bullet is nothing before Shaw destroys the building. After that, Shaw stops, and he then comes toward all the mutants and starts manipulating them. Also, he advised them to join him as humans will never accept the mutants. Here, Angel accompanied him and left the other mutants. In turn, the other mutants use their unique abilities to fight back by using magnetic powers to throw metal objects at Shaw and his men. Shaw shows off his incredible powers of absorbing energy, which allows him to absorb an explosive attack from one of the mutants and redirect it toward Darwin. Darwin gets into ashes. However, Sebastian Shaw is meeting with a high-ranking Russian general at the Hellfire Club's headquarters in Moscow. Shaw proposes that the general give him control of the nuclear missiles in Cuba, which he can use to start a war between the two superpowers. Initially, the general is hesitant, but Shaw uses his powers to manipulate a coin and demonstrate his abilities, convincing the general to agree. After that fight, all mutants discuss the whole thing with Eric and Charles. Both of them now agreed that they would train their mutants to the next level so that, in the future, they would be beneficial to the team. On the other hand, Sia also knows that war will happen. Emma also creates a hole in the mirror and reveals that both parties will get an equal chance to win. Aside from this, Russia has sent its ships against the US has also decided to take Sept against them when they cross their line. However, Charles takes all the young mutants to his school, where he starts their training. Scene switches to Moscow, Russia, where they blame US for dispatching warships to Cuba. So, they will attack them, and in reality, Shaw has made this plan to eliminate both armies. Nevertheless, they train Alex, Angel, Raven, Hank, including Eric. They provide a bunker to Alex and create costumes for other members to help them fight. After hard training, all have succeeded and have control over their powers. During training, Eric asks him to move the giant building, and Eric tries but fails. Upon that, Charles advised him to focus on his super abilities and always use them with a mixture of anger and happiness. Then Charles reads Eric's mind, seeing him as a child beside her dead mother, and they both start shedding tears. And yet, after that, Eric succeeds in moving the giant building with his superpowers. In the following scene, they are watching the news that informs them that war is going to take place between Russia and us. Also, Shaw is confident that none can stop him. Moreover, in the next scene, Raven and Hank sit beside each other. Here, Hank showed Raven an injection that could change them completely. Raven and Hank are insecure mutants who want to look like normal humans, but Raven refuses it and makes Hank realize that, as mutants, they are magnificent. In the following scene, Charles and Eric discuss tomorrow's war. Eric knows that after tomorrow normal people will start hating them, but Charles thinks they will be normal because they will endanger their lives to save them. In addition, Raven left, but Hank tried that injection on himself. Now he has become a huge beast, and the team will call him Beast. Also, Eric makes Raven believe she is perfect and she has accepted it. Hank is not in the lab the following morning, and it has been destroyed. They took their clothes and reached the plane, warmly welcoming Hank, who had become a blue beast. However, there is a fight scene where ships arrive from the United States and Russia to confront. Here we can also see Eric Lenscher, Magneto, Charles Xavier, and their team of young mutants boarding a submarine to confront Shaw. Shaw is on board a giant submarine being escorted by the ships. When Charles uses his powers, he learns about the Russian ships where the pilots are killed by Shaw's associate Azazel. Shaw planned to destroy the US ships with Russian ships. Suddenly, the Russian ship started destroying its ship because Charles controlled its man with his power, upon which the US military gets confused. Meanwhile, Banshee flies in the air with his Echo and determines the location of Shaw. Also, Eric takes out the submarine with his power, but Shaw's man creates a tornado that results in a crash. Both teams are alive. When Charles used his mind's ability, he learned that Shaw was absorbing power and could become a nuclear weapon. Shaw's man and they have started fighting. Eric gets inside the submarine and disables the system of Shaw absorbing the powers. Also, Alex and Hank are dealing with Azazel when they surround the US team, and they surrender. Just then, Angel arrives and attacks them, but Banshee is ready to deal with him. On the other hand, Eric confronts Shaw, and the link between Charles and Shaw has broken. Moreover, Banshee saves Alex from the soldiers, but Angel throws fire on his wing that has caused fall to the ground. The scene changes to Shaw throwing Eric in the mirror and Charles communicating with him. Scene changes when Alex strikes the Angel and makes her faint. Also, Azazel suppresses Hank, but with the support, Raven beats him. Moreover, Eric takes Shaw's helmet and wears it. Now, he cannot listen to Charles, who tells him not to kill Shaw. Eric ultimately succumbs to his anger. Eric finally gets revenge by killing Shaw using the same technique Shaw used to kill his mother, manipulating the metal coin on his head by counting from 1 to 3. During the showdown on a beach in Cuba, Shaw is killed by Magneto, Eric, who then takes over his mutant-powered submarine and attempts to return the launch missiles on the mutants toward the US and Soviet fleets. Here, Charles tries to stop Magneto using his telepathy, but is ultimately paralyzed by a bullet accidentally fired by Moira's CIA agent. However, Charles is paralyzed after being shot by Moira. Eric then leaves the team after realizing that he and Charles have fundamentally different views on how mutants should live, and Raven accompanies him. After the battle, the group returns to the X-Mansion, where Charles takes charge of the school, changes its name to Xavier's School, and prepares to train a new generation of mutants. The remaining mutants choose sides, some joining Charles and others joining Eric. The movie ends with the scene where Eric, wearing the helmet and red suit, asks Emma to join his mutant vision and team, while all the junior mutants hear him doing so. Thanks for watching!